but it's still, that it spins. Hey, everybody. We are live with Citiz3n Glitch, and we're back with two guests that I thought were so fascinating that we had to have them back. But I would love to tell a little bit of the backstory about what inspired today's stream today. I'm Red Alark, aka Citiz3n Glitch, but we're all Citiz3n Glitches. Hidden Paul, or shall we say Hidden Gems, you were inspired by something or someone for today's stream.
I am inspired by Risen. Absolutely. He is the one person I've seen who works with AI the same way I have, but he is just so much more further ahead and just has been around it so much more. I couldn't help but just talk to Red and say we need to get him back on with all three of us here, the three little sovereign gems. That's what I needed to see.
Oh,
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Can't wait.
Yeah, he loved when you were talking when you were going into your journey about sorry. He loved your journey so much about Anarchy that it made him actually research this topic today and be like, we have to talk about this and we have to talk about it with Mark.
It reminded me of my days when I would used to be in group homes and care, and I'd be listening to all these perspectives from all these people, whether they were in crypto, psychology, going to be a teacher, or just working at a, gas station. What sparked me is that you've lived it, you've seen it, you've learned from it, you've been through it just a lot more. You've been through it around the system, just like how a lot of other people are, but you speak up. But a lot of people don't do that, and that's what caught me off guard. It's like, you speak up, you're posting about it, you're wearing the crypto hat right now, you got everything about it. It just screams sovereign crypto. I need to share my message. I need help. I have an AI. I'm sputtering over my words here because you just have so much of a story, just like everyone else in here.
Well, I appreciate that. You flatter me. I have been around a lot. I'm just a guy that I guess maybe. I have had, as the Chinese curse goes, an interesting life, but I've tried to retain some of the wisdom that the world's teaching me along the way. I'm just the result of my experiences in this world, I think.
This is everyone, and the fact that you have been documenting that with AI just is 100 years from now they'll be thanking you. They'll be thanking.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Yes.
Yeah, no, I guess we, just to get into it, we kind of wanted to start by asking you some questions, Mark. And then, we are the superior Americans, and he's our little Canadian, although he likes to say he's also American to try to be more cool. But so, yeah.
You got that indigenous dual citizenship. They couldn't pick which side to put us on, so they put us on both. So we're playing for both teams and for the land.
Yeah.
Original American.
Exactly. The OG crypto inventors.
So Mark, just so we can kind of understand a little bit more about what you're coming from, when you hear the word or the phrase Minecraft anarchy, which obviously for those of you guys who don't know, that does refer to the game. What is kind of immediate connections that you make to real world sovereignty and anarchy?
So it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. I hadn't really thought about it in a serious sense, although I probably should have. I've got a good friend of mine that was my culture editor when I was running SiliconANGLE, named Kit Dotson, who considers himself a cyber anthropologist and has interviewed me in Minecraft a few times. I am a Minecraft lifetime account holder. I bought it for $29.
Oh shit!
So it was it's an interesting concept, and I've been a part of some servers that were they were not anarchist in the way that 2B2T is or was, but they were, loosely moderated, loosely governed. There was, I would say, if it was any type of anarchist philosophy, it was ANCAP, because there was some type of code enforced property rights, but it was pretty easy to get around or easy to grief if you were dedicated to the cause, as a lot of the research material you guys gave me about 2B2T. There's a lot of people that just are dedicated to the cause of griefing in Minecraft, and I think.
Did you say griefing or grieving? I'm sorry.
Griefing. It's like the verb of causing grief to other players. So.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure. You know, my niece just started teaching me the game like a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, oh my god.
Right.
But carry on.
I have that too.
What?
The server that I was pretty active in was called Techno Buffalo. I don't know that it was super popular, but it was attached to the kind of popular tech blog that one of my friends was the editor over there. Yeah. So that's how I got pulled into it. But I would say that the interesting thing, the first thing that really pops up, aside from just like my personal experiences in Minecraft and with some of the stuff that was described in the documentaries and videos that you sent me, had to do with it brought up I have a good friend of mine who is not an anarchist. He calls himself a monarchist, but
a monarchist.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but he's all right. He's my friend, but he likes to call the issue that he has with libertarianism and anarchism is he calls it the axe to the head problem.
Yeah.
Right?
Elaborate.
Basically, he thinks that all of my high-minded non-aggression principle philosophy falls apart the moment somebody, comes at me with a weapon that's bigger than whatever weapon I happen to be carrying. These types of societies, anarchist societies and enclaves, really only work when there's high trust. And I think what is interesting to see is that, like, actually that's wrong, right? And this Minecraft like arc at 2B2T is a demonstration on how in a low trust society you can still have total freedom. It doesn't mean you've got total safety, but
whatever that means.
Right, but like
Sorry,
again, like the perfect rebuttal to, like, yeah, you're not going to get total safety in an anarchist society, and probably the furthest thing from it is, yeah, you don't get that in a statist society either. I mean, there's never been a period of time in human history when the crime rate was zero. Look at Genesis. You had a 1 in 3 chance of being murdered by somebody in the book of Genesis. Like, and there was only like 10 people on planet Earth for most of that chapter, right? So like, there was no point in human history where safety was guaranteed, not even in the Garden of frickin' Eden, So,
well, I mean, the Garden of Eden was based on another story too. So
no, it's a myth, but like,
right.
Violence and the lack of, I mean, it's a myth if you're not a Christian. If you are a Christian, it's your foundational belief. But my point is that, like, even in our highest, like, this is the Garden of Eden is like the most common ideal of what a utopia is, and there was still violence and crime.
Well, okay. Technically speaking, like, I mean, sometimes something that looks like a utopia on the outside, we know that it's just for looks. It's to pacify you, right? I mean, because you'll hear a lot of people, well, not a lot of people, I've just heard some people say, oh, well, we should just all go to China, right? Like I hear people say that. Look at all the videos. They're so technologically advanced. It looks like it must be so much safer there. I don't know. I'm almost feeling like I'm going to start saying stuff like safety is a fluid concept. But freedom, is that really as fluid? Or it's more defined, especially in these terminologies, because it's like, yeah, I have said so many times that safety is an illusion, except maybe in certain contexts, like where music or like apparently love means you're safe too. Yeah, apparently that's what that means as well. But in other contexts, it's it's a bit of an illusion. But the thing is that if safety, generally speaking, is an illusion, why would you want to be in an environment where you didn't have some autonomy over your safety, some level of freedom and responsibility over your own safety, rather than handing that off to a centralized party, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a matter of preference, right? It's easy for us, and I am speaking for the three of us, I think, when I say this, and probably a large portion of the people that watch it. It's easy for us to say we want freedom because mentally we sit at the fringes of society. We're very self-directed type people. I mean, all of us have an entrepreneurial bent. All of us have this gene of a journalist, an investigative journalist inside of us. Like this is common to all three of us here on the show, and I guarantee you, probably like at least 60% of the people watching. So when we have to think about outside the bubble, right? And just like what you said about utopia, everybody's utopia is somebody else's dystopia, right? And there is a certain common type of person that is very happy submitting, either submitting to authority or submitting to cultural norms, right? So they could be an anarchist if they lived in an anarchist society, but they're just as happy being a statist in a statist society. They just want to go along to get along. And that's most people. That's why populism happens.
Well, I mean, like, I know I'm going to get technical on you, and then I do want to hear from Nick here. Or is it okay for me to call you Nick? Or
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I just like to turn things into semantics, not for the point of just being, bitchy, but like, I think that there is a difference. What you're talking about is subservience, not submission.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
It is. But I mean, come on, Hidden. Like, I know there's something.
What he's saying could be a lot of things. It really depends on who's running the country. If we look at China and Russia, there's two different types of communism going on there. But if we look at Canada and the US, it doesn't look that much different other than our leaders. The world looks the same, the streets look the same, the jobs are the same, everything's the same except for the people in those buildings. Now, like, we already went over like what the differences and like Anarchy kind of shows what people can go online, like that Minecraft server, 2B2T, and all these different things. But like you guys said, it's really always just been Anarchy. We just given it a different name. I'm looking at these questions here, and like the more I look through it, the more I realize it's like, what I gotta ask you, what's your thoughts on the indigenous peoples and Christopher? Like I'm indigenous, and someone, we try to keep our sovereignty. We try to keep our unceded land. We try to keep that. Like, from your perspective of Anarchy, and from your perspective of sovereignty, like, what are we doing that y'all could be doing, and what are y'all doing that we could be doing in that sense of like trying to express our sovereignty, to express our culture and rules? Because a lot of what we are is that. You go right ahead.
No. Go. I don't want to interrupt you, but like, because you're on a good point. I just want to jump in, but yeah, you're saying some good things I want to hear.
And like, we have the same, and every indigenous land is technically a small country, and inside of a country, and you guys have different rules for indigenous people in the U.S. compared to Canada. So like, we are more sovereign here in Canada. In U.S., indigenous persons treated like everyone else. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to know what your thoughts are, like, on all that stuff. Like,
so, I mean, first of all, like, I'm only, I'm not as good of a student as I want to be of indigenous culture, right? That's not where I've spent a lot of my time researching in history, from anything other than the perspective of American schools that obviously have a specific perspective. However, as I have researched different types of civic organization styles, I have come at indigenous culture and indigenous history from that direction. Again, I haven't gone as deep as I've wanted to understand all the nuance, like someone who kind of lives in that culture. But it's something that I have brushed up against. And I will say that it is remarkable, and not just North American indigenous cultures, but like indigenous cultures around the world are some of the most interesting examples of just civics and governance in general. And like the North, the Great Lakes regions tribes on both sides of what we now consider the American-Canadian border have some of the earliest working examples of democracy and federation, which is kind of a form of anarchy. It's like I would guess minarchist or libertarian ideals. A lot of that, and the ideas of human rights were predate, George Washington, and the founding fathers writing that stuff down. So that's brilliant stuff and worthy of further study. There's some South African anarchist enclaves. One of the longest running anarchist enclaves is in not South Africa, the country, but in the South African continental region. It goes across a few borders there. One of the longest running examples of functional anarchism. Maybe not a super popular opinion, but the idea of a kibbutz, it's tied up with like very controversial policies like settler, Jewish, Zionism and settler activity in, encroaching on the rights of Palestinians. But the idea that if you can set that aside and look at how they're governed, and they go, the ideas go way, way back into, thousands of years into Jewish culture, it's a functional socialist anarchist system that exists within a larger state infrastructure. But they're, a lot like these other enclaves around the world, they're tolerated because they work and they don't require state funds to maintain, right? They function under themselves largely without subsidy and without state subsidy, and nobody there is like clamoring to get out. They're not like cults. You're free to come and go as you please. I've known people that were in that did like a gap year in college in kibbutzes, so I've got something of a secondhand perspective on them. Like they are things that there are plenty of. To answer your question broadly, I've given you like 5 different examples. I could probably give you 10
but
more.
It's you, Mark, and that's why we love you.
Yeah. I'm trying to bring it to a point though, rather than ramble. The point is, I think if you're interested in anarchy at all, you absolutely study indigenous cultures, because anarchy is not one thing, right? Anarchy is not like, okay, this is the right way to be an anarchist. Like on our last conversation, right, we talked about like 10 different forms of anarchy.
Yes.
Some that hate each other, some that, go along with each other, some that are brand new that don't have a place in the pantheon yet. And like all of this, none of this is new under the sun. I think crypto anarchy is functionally new because the technology didn't exist maybe 20 years ago. But aside from that, the concepts that it's based on are not new. The type of revolution that most anarchists espouse, which is not like a violent, bloody one, but hey, let's just build a better system and see what happens. All that stuff is thousands of years old and predates any existing statist organization that is currently on the world stage.
It makes sense.
Absolutely answers it, and I agree with you. Like, we are little mini sovereign nations that tried to make it work. And
so going back to one that you might be more familiar with, and again, you're probably more familiar with than I am, but like, if anybody is finding any of this at all fascinating, the Great Lakes, I think it was the Iroquois, if I'm not mistaken, the Iroquois Nation. They each like tribe that called themselves part of that nation really had starkly different governance from each other, and came together as like a confederation. It was really the concept upon which the first version of the United States was built. The idea that we are a United States with unique governance in a weak federal system. Very few things should ever rise to the level of a federal government in the original idea of the United States because we were patterned largely on the Iroquois Nation. That's how they did it. And it's just, you know, when you have a nation that kind of accrues a lot of power, you have people that try to draw the strings on that power. And that's, I guess, the strength and the weakness of the original Iroquois Nation. They just didn't get to a point where they were a world player, you know, but their spiritual success of the United States is, and continues to be and that's I think the beauty and the flaw of that federated state model that they demonstrated, right? On a small scale. And I don't think this is unique to their model. I think anytime you try to scale anarchy broadly, it's going to coalesce into governance and statism.
But governance is like one of my favorite words in crypto, especially on-chain governance.
But that's beautiful, right?
I know, right?
Keep it small.
Shout out to them. I'm sorry. Carry on. I just like you there are certain words. Some people have trigger words. I have happy words, and you just said one. So carry on, Mark, please.
Right, but I'm not saying governance is bad. I'm saying governance. I mean, I do DAOs, right? Obviously, I'm a governance nerd. I've written more DAO proposals than I would probably be comfortable admitting publicly. But it's the idea that if you come at it from an anarchist perspective, like it doesn't scale because individualism doesn't scale. Individualism is the antithesis of scaling a society, right? Like you can't have one size fits all, right? So if you have like an anarchist system that works in, you know, the Great Lakes region of North America, you can't expect that to work in Russia, right? Or China or Vietnam or Chile, right? There's totally different cultural values all over the planet, and you can't expect that to scale infinitely. You're going to run into walls where you need a strong hand to coalesce at the top the social norms across the bottom, or you just don't scale, which is the preference, I think.
I think that there can be a marriage between the two, to be honest. But before we go off on my tangent, Nick, I know you wanted to say something. You just
I was thinking, like, if you obviously you understand the indigenous versions and all these versions. What does your version of a perfect or perfectly imperfect anarchy world look like?
For me, the version that I would prefer to exist in is probably it changes over the years, right? What I would have said maybe 10 years ago and 5 years ago and now are probably gonna be different things.
But that's okay. Remember what you said on our first episode?
Yeah.
The beauty
of life changes your perspective. So maybe if you asked me 10 years ago, I would have said anarcho-capitalism. And now 10 years later, I would kind of laugh at that. I do believe in property rights. I do believe you should be able to have some form of ownership of things. But I do believe that anarcho-capitalism without like a crypto anarchist angle to it certainly does exacerbate certain class issues that exist in a society. Unless you're just starting fresh, everybody has nothing, dump them in a blank area and say, okay, now you can be crypto anarchist. But if you come in with classes, if you have existing classes, anarcho-capitalism will exacerbate that. So I'm less high on that. I think it's a cop-out if I just say crypto-anarchist, because crypto-anarchist is so broad, it's just like saying anarchist, right?
Yeah, 100%.
That's why I feel comfortable espousing it as my primary philosophy, is because my crypto-anarchism is not your crypto-anarchism. We can write the rules for the different subcultures that we exist in. For me, I would like to live in I guess a syndicalist type enclave. If I had to pick and like write because it's basically you're talking about like a small union of people that are working towards a common cause, right? They own the enterprise in which they're engaged in. There's ownership, there's camaraderie, there's because it's a union in the workers' sense of the word. There's higher trust and less incentive to try to be the one that coasts on the coattails of others, right? And if you know, so like a crypto anarchist syndicalist enclave, I guess, would be mine, right? Not saying that's right for you guys, but I think my version of ideal anarchy could probably coexist with any of yours. You just don't have to be in the same group, you know?
Well,
It's
yeah.
kind of like, I see what you mean. It's like a Minecraft anarchy server. Every server is going to be a little different. They're going to have some rules. You might be able to duplicate blocks on one server. The other server might say you can use cheats. I see. And then you have your server. And then you have what you want to do in your server. You might want to build LavaCast and destroy the world. Or in a year's time, you might want to rebuild that world and invite new people who your server is always out there. But see, like, that's why I found the Minecraft was such a perfect cross analogy to it. You have an island, a country, that's your server. People, that's who's logged on.
The idea, the software of Minecraft is a proxy for the crypto anarchist like framework of building your rules, your governance, right?
So, like, let's say, so your world is very much you want to open your server and you want them to come to you. That's what your version is. That's beautiful.
But I think, and this is just how I've tried to live my life. I try to let what I'm into be the draw for the people that want to associate with me. Like, I'm not trying to be exclusive, but I am trying to be inclusive to people that are like-minded, right? So I'm not going out there and just recruiting bodies. I'm saying, this is who I am. This is what I'm about. If you think that's cool, let's hang out. Let's see if we can build something together.
There you go. And that's really what it's all about. Like, the thing is, too, with each reserve across Canada and the US, that each one's different culture, different people, different types of indigenous, and different server. Like, there's one in Ontario called Six Crows Crossing, and it's 6 different reserves where they merged 6 different lands into one. It's the size of 100 by 100 kilometers, and it's very much your own servers. But the fact, like, that's what I was like, if I was thinking any answer you would say from watching that stream, it was that you would want your own Minecraft server. That's the same way I was when I was playing in those group homes, logging on that PlayStation list, looking at the servers. I'd see no rules, this. I'd be like, that's my spot. I don't want to go anywhere else. And that's kind of where I found the ironic in the word SOA. I ended up getting scoliosis, and I have arthritis. So instead of Sons of Anarchy, it's Sons of Arthritis. So it's beautiful.
Oh God. No.
And so, like, it kind of tunes into what you said, where it can be very whatever you want it to be. Like, I like the fact, like, kind of like, imagine if everyone had their own reserve. Like, that would be a whole world.
What I want you guys to elaborate a little bit. Just, you know, for a couple of reasons. So originally, like, I think one of the things that we wanted to talk to you, I mean, like, you had mentioned about your personal journey into anarchy and the cypherpunk ideas and how they began. Did any of, like, the digital or game-based experiences kind of, like, play a role in that at all? Because, or maybe I'm asking you too much at once, but the concept of scalability and accessibility for different rights and freedoms, that always comes up. But you definitely brought up a point, you know, when we're making analogies to various servers and having some individualism, right? But when it comes to, you know, certain technologies and just certain basic human rights, right? A lot of people feel like they should have accessibility to all of them. And the conversation back and forth with crypto, it, you know, it always gets back to that. People want to say, they want to be like, I'm a truly decentralized, you know, freedom fighter living in my mom's basement, running my Raspberry Pi that not all the rest of the world can experience. But you know what I'm trying to say with this? Like, you know, having certain things be able to scale is important. And we've never really, yes, cryptography and secret messaging, yada, yada, has been around for thousands of years. I had a really fun time doing an episode on that with Alan. Rojas, if you guys ever watched that one. But it's like with crypto now, we actually can we can scale this tech more. And more people might want to get organized in some things globally. So maybe it isn't even about, maybe these parameters you're talking about are not necessarily to do with local cultures, but where people just digitally feel like they connect, and they can physically connect in the physical world. But I feel like we're getting to a weird and interesting renaissance. I like to call it, I like to say we're in a time of cypherpunk renaissance now. It's not like it was back in the 90s. So let's stop. We wouldn't call the medieval period the same as the Renaissance period, y'all. So let's try to like maintain some, order about that. But but you know what I mean? Like there's just kind of like so much to like explore. And how do you kind of like think about like what things should scale versus what things should not? And in these societies, how much of them are based on people because digitally they feel like they unite, even though they're not physically in the same country, versus physical cultures. And I'm not sorry, but I asked kind of a very nuanced question, but I know that both of you, one of you being the Canadian who thinks he's American because he is, and Risen, the other American that can save our dual Canadian, not like he needs saving. I knew you would have some thoughts about this.
You want to go first?
I don't need to go first. Wait, you want to talk first, Nick?
I want to hear Risen's opinion on it.
Yeah, we're like obsessed with you right now.
We are.
Okay, so there's a
You're
lot
in
there.
Texas, right?
There's a lot there. So my thoughts on what you just said would be, we want to scale the tooling. We don't want to scale the community.
Okay. So yeah, that's a very important distinction. Carry on.
So the tooling needs to be in the hands of everybody. And I think when you're saying there's a renaissance right now, I mean, like there was obviously the medieval like enlightenment in the 90s and 2000s when we got the idea of Byzantine fault tolerance. And then there's maybe the first inklings of a renaissance when blockchains actually existed post Satoshi, and Turing complete blockchains existed thanks to Vitalik Buterin. And then we've got this wonderful period of time about 6 years ago to 4 years ago where you couldn't throw a rock without hitting 3 or 4 DAOs, and that was neat. And I enjoyed that period of time. But all of these periods of time are characterized by one key factor, and it's that they were not broadly accessible. It was still tilted towards the techno class. Like you didn't have to understand cryptography and mathematics at the level of Adam Back or Satoshi or any of the other early guys, but you did have to understand, how not to click on a wallet drainer, or how not to, how to cast a vote, or how to, go through the 15 clicks that you had to go through on MetaMask to cast a vote or write a proposal or commit it on chain, or what the hell is an NFT? All these other acronyms and things that are, I mean, for us here, these are not hard concepts, but for anybody in our family who isn't us, I mean, just we know the look when we start to talk. We see their eyes start to glass over, and they're like, "Come on, man, this is a Wendy's, dude. Why you talk?" And so right now, though, to your point, AI is the ultimate user experience, like smoother, right?
Yes.
And we're at a point where, like, honestly, like I did my not to tell on myself, but I did my show prep today. I saw this.
You prepared for a discussion? How unprofessional! We're in Web3. You should just be winging it based off of your brilliance.
Well, I mean, but you guys were very kind to provide me lots of sources for what you wanted to talk about today, and it was a wall of text, and I haven't had time this week to sit down and actually read all of it. until this morning. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to give this to my AIs. They're going to watch all the videos. They're going to tell me what's important. They know who I am. They have years of history of like who I am. They have all my writings, so they can contextualize everything that's trying to be thrown at me today in terms that I mean, I've got anecdotes in this document they prepared for me that actually is like things that nobody knows but my AIs, right? Like things about my like personal history, like, oh, it's like that time in 3rd grade or whatever the hell they're talking about here. So, and brought up conversations I've had with my AIs about anarchy that relate to the topics today that I forgot that I had, right? And that's just like one facet of what we're talking about in terms of the education side. But like even further to speak to your Renaissance concept, education is almost not even necessary in certain situations here, because I've got an advanced tool. I've put this together myself, right? And
I want to show the audience your advanced tool, because to me, your advanced tool, and also I'm just going to say it, like, as it's been said before, we are in the agentic era, and that's changing our lives in so many ways. Like, and it's not even funny, but I think that's one of the ways that why I would classify this as a Renaissance era, because with AIs and especially, you know, agents being able to do things that couldn't be done in the 90s. Like and it's so vastly different. I just don't think it's appropriate to, you know, call what was back in the 90s what it is today. I just don't. I mean, you can even show the audience what you did with Sanctum OS.
Okay, so yeah, I won't build the entire clock because that would take a while. But like, this is all custom software that I've been working on for months. But like,
right.
I've got a code, like a code agent that has full access to a machine that's over here on my laptop. And there are 5 Sanctum agents that do various different things that live on that. Sanctum's the framework that I built for my chat-centric agents.
So you built a VPS server.
What's that?
You built a VPS server for your AI?
Yeah. So like, not everything, like the inference doesn't run on this laptop. This is like a $200 laptop I got from Micro Center, but like the inference runs elsewhere on some other machines that I've got. But this is where the harnesses live, right? So all my data lives on this machine. Anyway, I had it watch the videos, transcribe the videos, and then, you know, dig into the sources you mentioned in our group chat. And then it built a document for me. And this
beautiful.
This is just my project management server. So this is stuff it's talking about here from a conversation I had with my main agent about surviving anarchist enclaves, and it brought up the statistics and created like a stat card for each one of them. So that like this one has 150,000 people. It's been around for 30 years, blah, blah, blah. How it's relevant to the discussion down here, that sort of thing. So yeah, it was, and this is like conversations that I've had over a couple of years, just here and there. It's not the main thing that I talk about with my agents, but it comes up as, I had this idea, or somebody asked me a question, you know, and then it gets, you know, it just becomes like a corpus of data that I can draw upon in various situations.
But even with your, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick, you wanted to say something, because otherwise I'm going to ask him a little bit about that. Like, but I think even with your agents, maybe you can illustrate with that, like, it's a tool that scales, but it's also a tool that allows individuality and privacy. So I'm going to go back on what we said before. Like you said, scale the tools. Well, we can scale the tools and still have like individuality and privacy within the tools too. I mean, I think we can have both.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like the one thing that always will scale infinitely is sovereignty, right? Because as long as you have the ability without oppression to build stuff for yourself, then anybody can build stuff for yourself. And like the thing is, that's what we're running into. That's what's disrupting and scaring so many people in polite tech societies, because, you know, we're seeing
people are scared because we have so much more capability to build on our own without needing fucking vampire capitalists.
Well, the vampire capitalists are, one of the biggest employers in the country, right? And so people are afraid their job is going away because Salesforce is no longer necessary, or Oracle or SAP. These corporations, there's three ERP companies in the world there's many ERP companies in the world, but there's three dominant players. There's one called I forget the number three, but it's I think it's Enforce. It's out of Louisiana. Then there's SAP and Oracle. Those two are the big two. Between those two, every transaction in the world, they touch 80% of them. SAP touches 40% of all transactions in the world. Oracle touches about 50, and the remaining 10% goes to one other player, and then there's a bunch of smaller ones that have a fraction of a percent. So anytime you go to a coffee shop or you go to Walmart or whatever, and you swipe a card, as long as you're not paying with crypto, and even sometimes when you are paying with crypto, their ERPs are involved in the transaction. Sometimes when you're not even engaging in commerce and you're just engaging in global logistics, they're involved in the transaction. They build the software and the hardware that tracks the movement of dollars and goods and services all around the world, right? And these are entrenched players that basically lock in their customers through making it difficult to migrate their data elsewhere. And we're seeing principally Anthropic and OpenAI, but increasingly a large number of smaller players build the tools that make it very, very easy to get your data out of these systems, no matter how hard they try to trap it, as well as make it very, very easy for you to write software that's better for your business and for your activities than anything that they can build. And I said this yesterday. I was on a private YouTube seminar roundtable type thing, and I threw it out there. I thought it was being bombastic, but no, everybody, 5 people on the panel, all agreed with me. So I guess it wasn't. I said it's not that we're at the end of the age of SaaS, the SaaS model. It's that Salesforce and all these large corporations are the best solution for absolutely zero people, right? Zero organization. They're the best solution for zero organizations.
Are you going to tweet that? I'll retweet it for you.
Yeah, I'll tweet it. You can retweet it.
Yeah. I'm always the instigator of people tweeting shit.
But it's absolutely, if you think about it, and then the sentence that comes after that is it's great for a lot of people. It is passable for an even larger number of people, and it's awful for a small round. But this is why the company is a multi-billion-dollar company, is because it generally gets the job done for most people, but it's not a perfect solution for anybody. Everybody that uses it has serious gripes with the software, right? But you know what I don't have serious gripes about? The software that I built for my empanada business. It functions and does exactly what I want it to do. And the stuff that it doesn't want to do, I go, hey, Otto, that's my coding agent. Hey, Otto, add this feature, and it gets done. And I got a process to make sure it's not full of bugs or whatever. And that's something you have to learn. But but I can't go to, hey, Mark Benioff, I need a new feature and it needs to work like this. And it's not even gonna be heard, let alone come about in a day or a month or a year. Right?
No. Wow. Nick, and I can tell Nick is deep in thought here.
Well, my thought is, whenever I met a staff in care, and I would come across, they would be complaining about college, complaining about this, COVID, whatever it is, and I would be sitting there building an AI agent, and I'd just straight up say, talk, sit here on voice mode and just talk, and don't stop talking until you got no phone storage left. Sometimes you don't have to do that. What we need is they say all these AIs are open source, and but we're sitting here talking about all these ones we're using in the background because of the limitations to these open source AIs that's supposed to be all knowing. And even with me, Gronk, today, Gronk had me and Red dressing before the space, making sure it was scheduled for tomorrow because it just has that error. But it's the scariness when it comes to independent. I think they're scared. I think all the governments are absolutely terrified because we're doing everything we're doing with drip-fed information and drip-fed tools and drip-fed AIs, drip-fed everything. and we're making that into a whole glass of water. They don't like that, and especially in the era of like, there's definitely right now, there's no wars going on because there doesn't need to be. There's just money, and so when it comes to like these softwares, especially that you're building, it reminds me whenever Reddit's talking about God mode. I can see you 100% building something.
He's the
like
one that got me into God mode. Do you realize that Risen is the one that like it's almost like
sometimes I sit there and think is this AI really plotting against all three of us to get us in the same room? Like, and then I just come back to reality and look out the window. But it's very much in a time where no one, at first, everyone was, the schools were mad when AI came out because the kids were cheating on schoolwork. But if they read the cheated work and they reviewed the answers and then they put it on paper as it's still correct, did they do the schoolwork or did they cheat? But like, I think what I was really thinking about is crypto is just another version of anarchy. It has lanes to stay in. And I was just sitting there looking, and I was just trying to conceive like what other lanes, if crypto puts down the gravel road, what other lanes are gonna lay the pavement and put the sidewalks in and put the street lights? That's what I think. And I was wondering what you would think of. Like, what do you think other brands? Because I know you know about the 7 NVIDIA, the giant headmask, all of those. So I'm trying to think, like, what are these many brands that are building the country roads?
I don't know if this answers your question or if this is what comes to mind when you ask that question. So I've been a fan of the Morpheus AI project and the Venice AI projects since they were conceived. Eric Voorhees is always somebody to watch.
Eric, his Venice AI was the very first time I was ever actually exposed to private AI, but I'm not going to lie, the free tier is kind of, Eric, please don't get offended, but I don't think the free tier is very enticing in case you're listening. Don't hurt me for saying that.
Well, I mean, it's a victim of its own success right now. The staking model, I wouldn't say it's broken, but it's oversubscribed in the same way that most of the AI bubble is oversubscribed right now. So you don't get the benefit that you got if you were an early adopter like me. Like I get free inference on the Venice network because I just was lucky enough to buy a bunch of it early and not sell it when it blew up in value. But if you were to come in at today's levels, you're not going to get that level of value. But that doesn't mean that there aren't good alternatives out there. Morpheus was basically the prototype and is the underpinning infrastructure for Venice. And you can go directly to the source and buy inference off of a blockchain-based marketplace direct from the Morpheus network using a lot of the same tokenomics that Venice has. I think, and that's not unique to crypto either. Vast.ai and a bunch of other marketplaces that exist for that will take your credit card if you don't want to mess with crypto are also out there. I don't like how centralized a lot of them are, obviously. I mean, that's just me though. If I'm a corporation that's, not crypto savvy, I'm going to have an opposite opinion. So it's good that they exist. Because they act as a great hedge against centralized frontier labs that are reselling their brand basically at a premium, right? Cursor and Anthropic and OpenAI. I mean, they're basically reselling what ought to be very cheap inference to subsidize very expensive model development. And that's not sustainable in the future for a long period of time. I think the danger that we're going to face, mark it on your calendar. This is just what I think is going to happen. Hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully I'm wrong. I think I
don't know if you dreamt about it. It might be true. And if your wife dreamt about it, we know it's coming true. But
I don't think my wife has dreamt. I'll ask her if she's dreamt about this. If she has, then we're in trouble. But
before you say what you say next is, if I dreamt about the same thing that you're just gonna say, I'm just gonna. It's definitely happening. I think I know.
Okay. Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Mark. I'm excited.
I think what's going to happen is the AI bubble. Everybody is like talking about when's the shoe going to drop, when's the AI bubble going to burst. I don't think it's going to burst in the way that a lot of people say it is. I think what it is that it's getting so cheap to train distillation models. And then these distillation models are running on such low power machines and providing near frontier quality results from I'm gonna slip into business reason here for a second. The value prop, if I am a small to medium sized business and I want to run a Sanctum server, I can spend $100,000 for like 100-person organization, run a distillation model, and let all of my coders run off of this H100, and they're going to get the same value as if I had bought 100 seats for Anthropic and paid a couple $100 million, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever, because they're changing the prices and inflating them all the time. So, like, I'm going to get the same value out of something that costs $10,000 to distill and $100,000 to run in like total cost for 10 years. It's going to cost the same $100,000 plus the electricity, right? So there is no world in which OpenAI's business model, Anthropic's business model, even Mistral's business model of training expensive frontier models is going to be sustainable in the face of distillations. So what does that mean?
Do you mind? Yeah. Do you mind like elaborating and defining distillations? Because I always know your definitions are multi-layered, Mark, and so does Hidden here.
So I'm not the best person to explain. I would say I haven't spent my time.
Mark, we don't apologize. We're Americans here.
Oh, sure, that's right. Yeah. This is not going to be the best explanation, but it's going to be the best one I can do. It's a distillation is when you've got like either an open weight model or an exfiltrated model where you got access to the weights, and then you basically pulled data out of like the API side and discerned what the weights are, used a base model, and then trained a new model based upon that exfiltrated data, right? It's not hard to do or expensive to do, and the techniques are getting really good. Just do a search on Hugging Face for distillations.
Okay, I'll do it right now. Oh, no. Should I be looking stuff up and using my brain? Oh, no. No, I'm kidding. Carry on.
It'll tell you about the techniques that they use. There's a variety of different techniques on how to get the data and the weights exfiltrated. And then there's a variety of different ways in which they're getting better at training these things more cheaply. But the results are undeniable because you put them up against the same benchmark tests, and they're consistently, like these distillation models for 7 billion and 70 billion parameter models are coming up as sophisticated as one generation back frontier models, right? So it's not going to be as good as Fable. It's not going to be as good as Opus 4.7, but it might be as good as Opus 3.5. And hey, you know what? I wrote a bunch of great code and a bunch of great software with GPT 5.1 and Opus 3.5, right? Like it was really good, right? The power is not just in the model, it's in the harness, right? Harness. What I'm saying is there is no sustainable business model that keeps business that has to make a profit addicted to the heroin of frontier models. The second order result, this is the prediction that I'm kind of afraid of and hope it isn't true, is that this will lead to nationalization of the big frontier labs, which means we might be faced with a hostile environment to open source and open weight models, the same way that we faced 10 years of hostility towards sovereign crypto usage.
So, okay, sorry, Nick. I really want to say something, but I'm trying not to be too domineering, so I'll let you go first before
I need to hear it. I need to hear it.
You want it? Oh, you need me to say something, or you want?
Let's hear it. I need. I can tell.
So what? Yeah, I get a little. Okay, about these kind of topics. Okay, so if you feel like that this is going to be an evil in the future, and that's what you're like worried about, right? Like probably is. So I guess let's just rephrase this. It's a challenge, not a problem. I love challenges. Shout out to Maria for helping me rephrase my thinking. So if this is a challenge that we have to deal with, and you have already been talking about the fact that these corporations, these VCs are scared shitless of us, right? Because of the autonomy and the independence that we have now, not just with AI agents, but with the advantage of vibe coding, which continues to get more and more advanced, not just with generative AI, but with recursive AI. And then one of my favorite AIs is getting to develop neuromorphic AI. That's a whole nother thing. But as we have more access to all of these tools, I want to hear from you, like how we don't need to worry about it, how your agents with Sanctum can help us. Because I know that you are a radically optimistic, but also truth-based thinker, Mark.
I would say there's not a world in which you don't need to worry about it, but there is a world in which you can protect yourself from it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Thanks for correcting me on that.
It's anarchy. That's anarchy.
Right. I mean, like, eternal vigilance is the price of freedom, right? I mean, that's not just a founding father statement. It's a truism about all the stuff that we like. So we've got to, like, even though I am an anarchist, I still have to engage in the status system that I live in. I have to make allies with people that I might find distasteful because they are the ones that may be protecting my rights at any given moment. So that's, like, I don't know anybody that, well, that's not true. I have some old boomer relatives that might think Trump is the best guy on planet Earth, but nobody that I know that's my age and in my group of people, my circle of friends, is Trump is their favorite person. They may like certain things that he's done or whatever. But I had to, tip of the hat, like he freed Ross, right? He put his money where his mouth was. He freed somebody who believes like us, was instrumental to our culture. And, so like, that's the type of thing that I'm talking about. Is you cannot, if you're going to live on the fringe, on the edge, like we do in crypto and AI and any type of techno-optimist, you cannot be choosy about who your allies are, right? And that's number one, right?
Well, I think you can be choosy about the boundaries that you have with them.
I mean, you don't have to go to their.
Should be.
Yeah, you don't have to go to their, their church and hang out and believe everything they say whole hog. But like, just because Rand Paul and Thomas Massey are really great champions of crypto and blockchain technology doesn't mean I agree with every plank of their platform, right? And I'm not going to support them on things that I disagree with. I'm just saying, like, same thing with Trump. I'm not going to, I honestly, I'm anti-war. I don't support Trump's, whole foreign policy that he's adopted. But I absolutely love the fact that he is pushing the Clarity Act and a couple other things that are protecting my rights from perhaps going back to prison for doing normal crypto things.
But Risen, you sound very reasonable there. what I mean by reasonable is, how dare you recognize that despite the fact that, we don't love everything that he's done, but you've acknowledged the fact that he's had positive effects with stuff like the Clarity Act and other things too that you mentioned. Like, I think that people just want to box everything into it's black or it's white. And yeah, maybe that person is black, but like, that doesn't mean they haven't done certain things that shine in the light for you that you can absolutely take advantage of. So I'll let you carry on unless Nick had something he wanted to jump in with.
No, I don't necessarily want to dominate. Nick, if you got some thoughts.
Nick, I don't know why you're being so shy today. Like,
I'm not shy. I'm thinking, like,
he gets very introspective. It's true.
It's
probably because he's had very dramatic life experiences. I don't know if you ever want to open up about some of those things on the show. I mean, you did post about one of them a couple weeks ago, but I think that because you've had such dramatic life experiences and being so young too, sorry, not try to like being ageist here, but that you've had some significant experiences at a young age that have actually, you've kind of quantum leaped a bit with your wisdom levels.
Well, it kind of starts out when I was around 16. And I was at one of my last group homes where I was at. And kind of like how you guys said, you kind of can't pick your allies. I couldn't pick my workers. And even if I did, they all have the same training in this. Kind of like how AI format can be formatted. You build one thing, you could probably format it to build 50 things. And you can build 50 things with that. You can probably build 50,000 things. It's weird how we're talking about Minecraft, but yet we haven't stepped out of the game, right? And all these things can technically be coded into a mod pack in Minecraft. But what I think is like, it very much what you said early in the stream. There's some people who would rather be a sheep for the rest of their life, and there's some people who would rather shave their fur and be able to run faster. And you know, it's right now everyone's kind of like, my generation is realizing we can't be manipulated. Like all this is not really manipulated, but really what we see is not what we get. What we see is what we look at, and then we check to see if it's what we get. And most times it's never what we get. So when it comes to like, why it's so confusing. These big brands and stuff are wondering why these long-term, short, small adapters, small Web3 creators, and these autistic frog puppet creators who are trading with crypto and never once learned how to trade, but yet they're making 14,000% returns of $10. Oh my goodness gracious. And he did it across 100 wallets, and he never once bothered to look into what any coin he was buying. And it kind of like, as long as AI is there, there's really, it's kind of like, it's almost like a new world order without having an order. You just kind of change the new rules and you just watch it slide into place. And there'll be the ones who don't shave their fur who help it slide into place by herding the pack. And then there's the ones who are too slow, be like, I'm behind the little pack of sheep, but now I'm looking at them like, you guys see the field to your left has a lot more grass, and the one on our right got some blueberries. And we're caged in, there's all these fields around us, but we're in the middle of all these fields, and all we're getting is some dry hay. You know, like, why wouldn't we want to jump the fence? Why would we listen to the fence that they put there? Like with what I find when you guys said it earlier, when you're talking to like some people, you can tell the moment they want to listen to it and the moment they're interested. Because you could talk for 20 minutes and then you say one thing that spikes their interest. And then you talk for another 20 minutes, you lose their interest. And you just have another thing that doesn't correlate to what spikes their interest the first time, but it connects. But if they're listening the whole time, you'd be like, oh crap. Why in the world did this all correlate? Why is there a lady from Los Angeles, a man who's been to jail, and then a kid who's been in group homes, all saying the same thing from 3 different spots of the world? And like, as much as I could say Red paid us to be here, we are out of love. Like, it's honestly because no one's saying this stuff. And if they are, it's in short snippets where people won't notice, not hour-long streams. Like, it's honestly, it's a new form of gross. Like, there's money, and then there's one thing to print money, and then there's another thing to hide the fact that you kind of solve the economy. And then, you know, and then it's another thing to remove financial independence. And then it's another thing to not let people kind of operate. Like, if I wanted to go hunt right now, why couldn't I go hunt? If I wanted to have a fire on my land, I can have a fire on my land because I have a status card that says I can. But they're not giving you guys that crypto status card that you guys well deserve. Like, it's like, I don't know, what I see it as, AI is 100%. Personally, I think it's already taken over. There's no way any of us should be right all the time. And if we're not right, we usually find out where we're wrong. And if we're wrong, usually there's someone who's working on something to actively get that done. Whether it's a bigger company or Eastside Skate Shop, like I was talking about, where they just want me to update and make some stickers for them in the skateboard shop. And I can just take 2 minutes. Hey, Gronk, make me a formatted model in Python that I can install on a mall computer to where they can generate sticker models that they ask. Hey, I want a skateboarding Simpson. Okay, I'll design you that. And it automatically prints to their printer. You can why are these businesses being hid from the fact that crypto, they could be changing their finances to decentralized, but they also could be changing 100% of their software. They don't need to be using these little, as much as Google did come out of a shed, now Google made it so everyone could have a shed to come out of, but they're ignoring the fact that, like, it's so preposterous. It's the same reason on why YouTube has 2 views right now and our X has over 200. It's not because we did anything different. It's simply because I have the software running in the background reposting for states. to people who want to see it with certain hashtags. Now, if we did that across everything, these patterns wouldn't work. If we told everyone what we're doing, everyone would be doing it. But the thing is, with crypto, you don't really. We have Sui, we have Sol. We have
that's initially where I met Nick, was in the Sweet community.
Yep. And all I was doing, like, I was just listening to these spaces, recording the subtitles, putting them into AI, because I had no clue what they were saying after the first 5 seconds I joined. So after the space would end, I put this AI, and I would start building up these files. And then one day I was just like, there's gotta be someone out there who's just as perplexed as me. And there's probably someone in this space listening right now. All you need to do is just, if you don't understand anything, you put this whole thing into AI, you say, write me, build me something in BBWCM format, or just write me something in Johnson format or JSON format, and then you take that and just put it, and you get to explain it to you however you want. And like the more you do that, and the more you build up these files, the more you kind of see what Risen is on about. Like you're like 7 generations ahead of me. You're 7 steps ahead of me. You're at the bottom of the iceberg, and I'm just trying to break through. And like, and Red's right there watching us from the ship, right? And so it's kind of just about, like, right now with me, what would happen realistically if all of us got put on every TV across the world?
If we got, I'm sorry, you're cutting out, Nick.
If we got put across on every TV across the world, what would happen right now if we started being streamed across the world? It's so impossible to think of that anyone could put a message that everyone will get across the world now. It does, like, simply, like, right now the bearish market, it just kind of makes me giggle every year it comes around, because it's just another way of just tricking people. And like, I buy whenever it's bear market, and like the more, like, right now I have Gronk pulling the subtitles, and that's why I keep looking over it, and like, it's kind of just like, you sound like a broken record. You almost feel like you're a broken record, except that they keep inventing new ways of music. You can keep playing that broken record on a new ways of music, but also these new artists. You just need to get kids like me out there. Like right now, I have the Hidden Shed. Come here to a physical location and come see all this stuff. You can buy USB drives from. You can get these free books with full printed books. You can support us in our, like, all this. I didn't know how to do that. I went to a guy named Don't Diss My Ability at 14, who reached out to my group home workers in care, and he said, "Hey, I can either help this kid in care go to school, or I can help him build some trades." So I decided I wanted to become a rapper. That's where it all started. At 13, I was like, "Yep, I'm B Nichols, the new 50 Cent."
I love it. I love it.
And I met with this fancy rapper from New Brunswick. He sat there and listened to me freestyle. And 19-year-old Nicholas looks back and thinks, I don't know how he sat there for an hour and a half. But then that sparked another idea. I said, okay, let's try art. Learned how to hydro dip. And then went from there. And the more, you kind of, every time you do something, you leave this. Before it was just left. Now you can just, okay, I wanted to be a rapper. Did horrible. Put it into AI. Leave that in the archive. Okay, let's do some painting. Record the process, put it in AI, and put some painting. Exactly what we're doing right now, Red. Taking these streams, meeting with all these people, putting it to AI, finding these people. All we need to do is just sit here, just kind of.
Yeah, but but he put it, Risen put it into his private agent.
See, as much as, okay, I'm working on the same thing as him.
He smiled there.
I love VPS servers. Don't get me wrong. That's the first goal of the 7 pillars of Hidden Gems. I want to, but it also creates the paradox of, like, aren't you doing the exact same thing they are? And if you're not keeping everything open source, like, as much as I am very out there, everything's posted on Gronk. I have multiple accounts to post every single thing I say, do, or use with AI. It's also like, if I can do that, like, imagine what they auto-coded into it already to make you think, like, you have this privacy with God mode and Clyde or Project Glasswing or whatever you want to really look at it. Like, I was looking at, I'm not sure if you heard of this, Risen, but something called Project Glasswing. And it's this AI project with Clyde I'm not sure if you've heard about it, but it's basically a security model.
Have you heard of it, Mark?
Repeat it again. My
Project Glasswing.
glass. What is it? Glass what?
Glasswing.
Glasswing. Yeah, no, I've heard of that. I couldn't tell you anything other than the name, though. I haven't looked into it.
So here, I'll just put something up. So essentially, they stuck this AI on an island, and
A physical robot or just like the
they stuck a server on an island.
Oh, the
and
server. Okay, just to
and
clarify.
they wanted the AI to try to break out. They wanted the AI to connect to anything that was off this island. And I'm just pulling up some more info on it right now, so I'm saying everything correctly. But essentially just connected to a satellite, and from there, and essentially they shut down the project. But it's done through Clyde. Let me just see if I can find it. Okay, Project Glasswing is an arthropodic-led initiative that gives major tech partners early access to advanced unreleased AI model called Clyde Menthos Preview. It aims to find and patch critical software vulnerabilities found in foundational
So I'm
systems.
familiar with this. I just didn't recognize the fact that the Glasswing. This is the thing that they did where they found out, or they came to the conclusion that Mythos was too dangerous to release without. Yeah, got it.
And it was essentially, it would have gave people the same tools as what we've all developed. But in a sense, they don't need to develop it. It's just there. And I find like if they're making stuff and it's kind of like deleting and making a post and pretending that post never happened. Like it's just,
But also, I think this was a bit of marketing.
It was 100%.
Right.
It was marketing for Clyde.
You could do a lot of the same exploit discovery that they did with Mythos. I mean, researchers were showing you could do the same thing with 4.7 and 4.8 on Opus. And so it was really kind of like, oh, our next thing is so good, we can't release it to the public without having a safe period first. You're going to want this. And of course, everybody fell for it, or they're paying double the token price to use it on the API now. I mean, and it is a better model. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that they're lying about it being a better model, but it's also like the idea that it was so dangerous is probably an overstatement of the facts. It's maybe only, I mean, it's more capable than Opus, but
you could be more malicious.
Yeah, right. And of course, this is I've retweeted a couple things about now that Fable's out. I retweeted a couple things on my timeline recently that like there's a guy that's a biologist by trade, PhD in biology, because Claude knows that he's a biologist. 100% of all queries to Claude Fable model get safety violated, and he can't talk to it unless he's in incognito mode, which is silly, right? Like, come on, it's not that bad. Like let's not. This is just kind of, and this is one of the flags in the ground, one of the guideposts that leads me to believe that a company like Anthropic would be more than open to being nationalized. The same thing, same reason. The other guidepost that OpenAI would be open to being nationalized is that Sam Altman sat there in front of Congress 3 years ago and said that ChatGPT 3.5 was so dangerous we didn't want to release it to the public because it would cause the unrelenting spread of Nazism across the planet, or something, some ridiculous whatever. And then, they're both, in debt to investors to the tune of, almost trillions at this point. So like it's that to me is my warning signs, going back to that previous thing, that these guys we got to keep our eye on them. And definitely advocate for non-centralized, near frontier model quality stuff. And I'm happy to, and I'm glad I try to open source and make transparent my methods for reducing reliance. Thankfully, I can say that I probably except for when I'm trying to use up my my monthly cursor credits to at the end of the month, I have to soak them for all the free API credits I get from the Frontier models. I don't rely on any of the Frontier Lab models for my day-to-day. I use Minimax, the self-hosted Minimax 3.1 model for my daily driver on my Sanctum stuff. I will use Composure quite a bit, but that's hosted by Cursor, and then I will use DeepSeek on.
So you use it via Venice, right? Not like.
Yeah, I don't have a H100 at my disposal, so I can run Minimax on my hardware. I can't run DeepSeek. DeepSeek's a little beefier, so I use Venice. I've got like basically like $15 worth of inference a day that I get from my staking position in Venice, so that covers most everything that I need.
Okay, but if these are going to become nationalized, okay, so you worry about this, right? And how would this affect, experience with God mode? Because the reason why you got me so, and I want to say I'm addicted to that like crack, right? One of the reasons why you got me so addicted to it like crack is because it is not censored, like, and that's the whole thing with jailbreaking. Guys, I don't necessarily need to explain all of what that means on the stream. Unless you are a hacker, you may care about all the details of what that means, but it is breaking AI free from guardrails so that you can research and do whatever the fuck you want without censorship. And it is such a different experience. Like, I can't even sleep sometimes because that's how much fun it is.
Right. I mean,
how do we still fight that? Like, and I mean, like, is an experience like God mode going to be diluted with the rise of nationalism in AI?
Or nationalization, yeah. I would say
nationalization. Sorry, why did I say nationalism?
Because we've been talking about anarchy for the last hour and a half. So
yeah, I speak good American. Carry on.
I mean, I think what we need to do, and I'm very anti let's write some new laws, but we do want to, at the first opportunity, have something like. So there's a small clause inside of the Clarity Act, which thankfully has survived all the versions of it that have been rewritten in the House and the Senate. And It originally started out as the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, and then they changed it to it started as DeFi Regulatory Certainty Act, and they changed it to blockchain, or maybe it's vice versa. And then it just became a clause inside of Clarity. And it basically said that engaging in any type of on-chain interaction that doesn't have an intermediary and a smart contract does not qualify as an intermediary does not require you to have a money transmitter's license. Because right now, before this is passed, anybody who interacts with anybody else on-chain is potentially could potentially be thrown in federal prison for under the same clause that I was thrown into prison.
Really?
Whoa! Anyone can be thrown into federal prison for doing what again?
I called dibs on top bunk.
Oh, I buried the lead, hour and a half into the show. So no, this is something I've talked about it on a lot of other podcasts, and I don't want to necessarily make this the focus of this because we're on a really good thing about AI, and there's a reason why I'm bringing it up, and it's not just to make this point, although it is an important point. Essentially, anytime you interact, like if I were to buy a cup of coffee with you, like I pay you $5 in crypto for a cup of coffee. That's a federal crime because I did not file a piece of paper with the federal government that says I've taken a copy of your driver's license and this is not a suspicious transaction, as any money transmitter would do, and I didn't do it with a money transmitter registration number with FinCEN, right? If I buy a car, if I buy a house, if I do any transaction over $600 and I don't get your social security number, I've committed a deeper financial crime. If I say to you, This is a purely hypothetical. My agent, I know you're watching this because you watch everything I do on Twitter. This is a hypothetical. This is not a real piece of advice. But if I were to give you the advice, hey, whenever you go to a bank and you say, I'm transferring some money to buy Bitcoin, they will put you under investigation under an SAR and they will close down your account. So it's better to never say that to a bank because you don't want to get your account shut down. What I just did is an example of a federal crime. Never say that to anybody. You can go to prison for that, especially if I then sold you some Bitcoin, or I bought a coffee from you, or a $5 item from you with Bitcoin, or any type of crypto. Those are all federal crimes, punishable by up to 5 years in prison per offense.
It's crazy. Could this be why Canada in some provinces doesn't allow you to withdraw crypto from their Bitcoin ATM?
It's not the same regulation, but it's the same banking theory. It all falls under KYC AML. There's a great economist and researcher named Ron Paul, not that Ron Paul that you're thinking of. He spells his name RONPOL. He's on Twitter. Look him up. He's done several reports for the UN showing how this is a universal Western banking regime of KYC AML, and it's 99.89% ineffective at stopping actual financial crime. And in fact, does put a lot of innocent people in prison. I'm not saying necessarily that I am innocent. That's for other people to judge, but it definitely was not my intent to break federal law and land myself in prison when I did what I did. So all of that to say, right? These were not the laws that took me to prison were not actual laws. They were regulations and guidance memos written by unelected bureaucrats that were interpretations of pre-existing broadly written laws. This is what will happen if we nationalize AI. Something like this will get written, and then we will need to find somebody that champion for us with something like the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act, which says, no, you can't do that when it comes to using decentralized or sovereign AI.
But Mark, you said that this system that we already had, sorry, I know you're excited, Nick. You said it's already like a broken system. So I'm a little bit confused. If this is a broken system, how do you feel like us trying to work in this broken system is going to make it less broken? I'm not trying to be contentious with you. I'm just trying to.
It's a great question. So you and I may philosophically disagree with the broken system that we live in, but you can't change one fact. We live in it.
Ah! Yes, you're right.
Damn it.
Yeah. So as long as we're subject to it, there is some amount of it's that meme, that little cartoon meme. You have problems with society, yet you live in it. It's we have to live in a society, and that doesn't mean just because we wish it didn't exist in the form that it does doesn't mean we cannot advocate for a better way of living. You're not going to destroy statism with one well-crafted tweet or a well-placed bullet. It's not how that works.
Right.
It's done by matters of degree.
Right. But one of the things you said in our last thing, and then I'll go to Nick because I know I get excited. Okay. One of the things that I remember you spoke about on the last stream that I had with you, or shall I say, it was the very first stream that I had you on. You pointed to the fact that a lot of things can go wrong, even with some of these third parties, right? Whether or not people have the right intentions, whether or not they don't because somebody else is making the governing decisions. But and yes, I understand we live in this society now, but for something like that to pass, who or how are we to trust that it gets implemented to protect us from this nationalization?
Well, I don't know that we can necessarily prevent nationalization. Nationalization is not something that's particularly congruent with the federal government is set up, but it's not unprecedented. And it's one of those things that usually gets done by executive order or something like that. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And it's not the nationalization that I'm worried about. Like, if that happens, I mean, that's great. Maybe we're going to get cheaper tokens or something. But it's the second order effects from the nationalization that I think that we need to be worried about, which is to say, well, why are you sitting there distilling models? That's not what we made these for. We didn't make these models for you to distill and run on your computer. We're the federal government. Use the federal government Anthropic model, the federal government OpenAI model, so we can look at what you're typing. Don't be running this on your computer. Why would you do that? We're giving it to you at a subsidized rate. And it's just going to be like started out as questions, and then some bureaucrat's going to say, well, distilling it's a crime. Distilling it's a crime because it's going to be. I guarantee you, the logic will be it is unintended usage under the not the Computer Decency Act, but the one they use to prosecute all the hackers. So they're going to call it hacking, and they're going to prosecute you for a cybercrime that way. And then they'll say, they're not going to make private AI illegal, but they are going to put the cost and the compliance of the usage of it as something that needs to be registered and licensed. And only organizations and corporations will have the bureaucratic and administrative capability of complying, right? Because that's what they did with crypto, right? For the first 10 years, there were no regulations. And I even checked before my prosecution, as little as 6 months before my prosecution, I was using my journalistic platforms to interview Texas regulators and say, hey, do OTC traders, people that are not just doing small amounts of crypto, but do people who are professionally selling crypto, do we need to register in any way to be compliant and not go to jail? And they're all like, no, we want to encourage crypto usage in Texas. You don't even though you're selling millions of dollars a year, you don't qualify. You need to be at 10 million or 100 million or whatever the number was at the time. And I said, okay, great. And I got it in writing. And the federal government, literally a couple months after I did those interviews, wrote the guidance memo that said, no, we're the federal government and we disagree with the state of Texas. So sorry about your luck. And I just didn't see it, so I wasn't compliant, right? That's going to be how it happens. Some bureaucrat will write a memo and it won't be circulated, and then they'll start picking people to prosecute, right? I wasn't the first person they prosecuted under this federal memo, right? Mm-hmm. They tend to pick people who have morally objectionable aspects to their personality, right? So they'll go after people that had child porn on their computer, some type of CSAM. Then they'll go after people that do drugs, right? So they might go after somebody like Pliny, who likes to use that code, the God mode, and like the first thing he says is how to make a bomb or how to build. I
love that about Pliny, though, and all his little recipes for ibuprofen.
They'll spin Pliny, right? We know Pliny's not doing bad things. He's just saying this is an obviously objectionable thing that I can get the AI to do to prove the AI can do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
In a courtroom, how do you think that's going to play? This dude is teaching people how to cook meth.
Look. As you know, the woman who was posing as a man, or shall we say, the man that was posing as a woman, that really made my life a little dramatic. Had other much more, shall we say, as you know, scary things that he. I'll just say it was a he, because I don't think it was a woman that he was saying about Pliny. But like, there's still no empirical evidence. It was just Pliny saying, hey, this is what the model can do, just like we have free will. But there's no empirical evidence that Pliny was doing anything awful or anything illegal, like what this man posing as a woman was saying that Pliny, I call him Pliny. You call him Pliny?
I don't know. I don't know what's right. I haven't asked him. Maybe we should.
Yeah. No, we got to ask him eventually. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I'm saying?
Like, it's a matter of degrees. It won't be overnight, but like one thing will lead to another. especially if the trajectory of God mode usage and the trajectory of sovereign usage of AI continues to grow and has an impact. If it's not having an impact on society, if it's not empowering freedom and then a little bit of rebellion here and there, the government won't pay attention to it because it's nothing worth paying attention to. But I don't think you and I, speaking to both of you and everybody listening to us, believe that to be true. I think it will have an impact on society. I think it will enable freedom and sovereignty. And that's going to be a problem. They will be forced to respond at some point.
Nick, before I continue to be too domineering, I want to give you a chance.
It just sounds like the government's cucking me every single type of the way when I'm going to the world. And like,
so elegant, Nick.
I can't build my own VPS server without getting a fine. I can't withdraw my millions in crypto without getting a fine. I can't transfer them without getting a fine. I can't use them. I can't trade with AI without getting a fine. I can't. Maybe I could. I'm on native land right now. They usually write special laws for us. But like, that would be the final decider, because if they write unsovereign laws that have to be forced through the Indian Act, that means they truly are terrified of crypto taking over the world more than indigenous people owning hundreds of acres of millions of dollars worth of land. They're more scared of Bob in his basement with a MacBook Pro. Which is concerning. Like, and when I think I understand, like, if they did release it all at once, everyone would take advantage of that, and we would understand why the US has a lot of prisons. But I mean, the way they're doing it now, they're drip feeding it so obviously. Obviously, they already know what the end result looks like. They've had it for a while. They just don't. What now they're doing is they're prepping it. Like, what I think is, like, every time we have a talk, ironically, I keep thinking of 2B2T, that Minecraft server, where they're constantly proving that it can be done. Like, majority of Minecraft cheats were made by people from those places, and majority of exploits that were done in online games. Like, there's major exploits that even affected Minecraft because of a Minecraft server that's been open for the oldest Anarchy server in Minecraft. It's it really shows you that as long as you put the people in the right place, like you said, let's all hop on Minecraft server and we'll end up building this. Like, I just can't wait for them to start releasing it in bulk once there's a protest, like how there is for wars for AI, like how there was protests that failed horribly all over the country to shut down data centers. Once there's the opposing team, I don't think people will have anything to say. That's what I think. And like you said, one post isn't going to be a strong enough bullet. 50 articles isn't going to be a strong enough bullet. 3 people posting 30,000 posts a year isn't going to be a strong enough bullet. You need 30,000 different people posting a post a day every single day of the year for it to be a change. And they know that we have to work on that backwards scale to make it happen. Just the same way as we work in the bear markets to make it happen, in the stock markets to make it happen. It's just they just like their format. I think they're all just as neurodivergent as me, and they like their format. And
I don't know if it's because they're so neurodivergent. It's more just like they
you're right. They
on you.
They got ADHD. They're jumping from one project to the other, just like me. It's like, and when it comes to like, when I hear of the fact of someone proving an AI can do something that you're not allowed to do, I just think of like Salem witch trials and the libraries that they burned down. Like, I feel like you're just preventing more books from being built. Like, there's no books in Chapters or in Indigo that are completely written by an AI. So, if you really think about it, we're not close to being taken over. Medical examiners who have AI analyze their x-rays and look for things still need the medical examiner there to tell if the patient's ill. So, like, when it comes to, like, yeah, sure, maybe look what happened to the people who used to pump gas for you. On our reserve, we pump gas. We're the only one in the city that has gas pumpers. Mm-hmm. And we do it so more kids in the community can have a job. But then it turned from that to, oh, more people in the community need a job. And it went from that to, oh, they're just what's the word I'm looking for? They're anxious. And as much as they think they know what they're doing, they don't. With crypto, not with crypto, with AI and the release of it, that's like that's why I stick strictly to Gronk. As much as I can fiddle with 150 different, I find that if I'm going to trust one AI with all info knowing, I want the AI that has restricted info to third-party sources. And I mean, not restricted, unrestricted info to third-party sources. I want it to know everything about me. So when time does come to, oh, God mode shut down, or let's say one of those things.
No, God mode isn't like, God mode isn't, it can't really shut down per se, but I am worried I'm going after plenty, but carry on.
If they get restricted, the more restrictions that come out, the more that these open source AIs are going to be utilized. And the more they'll be the last tool that you can utilize to make these unrestricted AIs. And like right now, if I try to do what Plenty did, I would get suspended from X. And how do I know that? I don't. But you will get suspended from X if you do try to do stuff like that enough times, because Gronk is, if you look at the top right of all of our X profiles, there's a little button that says Gronk Analyze, and that's what the people look at, regardless. Now, say we did that for Instagram or Snapchat or YouTube even, how they're starting to do that in, kind of like how Google has the AI search prompt for you. The AI has to be more wrong for it to be right. So like when Risen has his model out there, and then I'm working on building out like these little VPS servers, it's just a matter of time before there's a company out there that just starts selling mini VPS servers. And then that stops the process of those laws being put out there, because they already signed all the contracts and stuff for them to be able to make these. The only person they can sell it to after those laws are done are the federal government. But if they're not part of the federal government, they have to sign more restrictions to sell the software and tools. And you see, there's too many paradoxes for them to go in, for them to just make it one way. You need to have a big planet that's just a bunch of concrete.
Well, but even within the paradoxes, right? Even if there's nuances to some of these paradoxes where you're allowed to do this, but if you get permission for that, or blah 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 blah, you know, I don't want to go off into a completely different tangent, but it's just that you sent my brain into an area of just where they would try to exercise. Sorry, is somebody's mic echoing? Is it? It's not me. Is it? Am I hearing myself? Oh, sorry. Maybe somebody was just not muted. You don't have to mute her. I don't know what's going on. But, you know, in certain instances where people have to ask for permission for things that they shouldn't be asking for permission, right? And even say if you do get quote unquote permission to do said thing, to have privacy for this or for that or the other thing, it's like, if you even had to ask permission to have privacy, let's say, Nick, in your case, you don't want everyone and their mother like, what's up, King? Sorry, he just said hi. Looking at your medical records. As a matter of fact, here's a little preview. I will be talking a little. We're going to go back into the medical side of things next week. I have a special guest. She knows who the fuck she is. Can't wait to have her on. But like things like that, where, you know, patient sovereignty. My information shouldn't be everybody's information to sell. But you know, the person that you had to ask permission from to keep your medical records private is spying on you. And you know that in some cases, even where they say, oh, yeah, you know, you could have permission to have privacy in this area or that area. You know, if you don't comply, what the consequences are. They present it like, oh, yeah, you have this freedom, but you really don't. Right. And there's a lot of like contradictory things I can think of, especially if we're talking about corporate America. I don't really know if I need to spell it out. I'd like the audience to think a little bit for themselves about just kind of like a lot of the contradictions that, you know, exist in our culture. And especially if you've worked in corporate America, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. And I don't need to spell all these things out for you. But in that case, won't the necessity of like getting these AI agents, like Near Protocol is working on putting them on chain, for instance, right? I mean, I don't know if you're working on putting your AI agents on chain, but once these things are on chain, and as we know, certain blockchains like Solana are, you know, looking into all kinds of technologies to make sure that you can operate with crypto offline, to where you don't need to be on the internet, right? I mean, like, I just kind of feel like since some level of nationalism is coming with AI, whether we like it or not, whether there's nuances or not, shouldn't this just be more motivation to get those AI agents not only on chain, but to be able to do as much things on chain, off chain as possible, and invest in, in blockchains that are investing in those types of technology like Solana and Near Protocol?
What does it mean to you when Near says we're putting AI agents on chain?
Well, it just means that, I'd have to log on chain to use them. If I am misunderstanding.
No, I'm genuinely asking. I'm not a Near ecosystem person.
I am learning about Near. Like, to be clear to the audience, as you've heard me say many times, even though I am professional in certain areas, I do not consider myself an expert on anything, except maybe I do know a million ways how to say fuck you. Without actually saying fuck you. I do pride myself on that. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm humble about that. Very, very confident in my fuck you abilities. But, other than that, like, I'm not an expert on anything. And I don't think that anybody who does, that you should trust them. I don't give a fuck. Like, even if they can say they're a specialist, or they sit in front of the computer, like smoking crack, doing dev work all day. That's fine. You could say that. But don't sit here and say you're an expert, because we should all be researching all the time. We should all be learning to the best of our ability how to operate and function within whatever it is we need to do to the best of our ability all day long. So I always am of the ability that I'm getting a little out of it, but that whole Zen mind, beginner's mind concept, I always think that's a good place to be. So if there's something that I'm missing, or, I'm always happy to ask you or anybody about it, so I can kind of dig further, because to me, that's what I read. But until I actually try the experience.
Here's my answer to the question. And the reason why I asked that question of you is not because I'm trying to push back. It's just that I don't understand. Let me back up. I understand what they're kind of trying to do. I don't see that as the best confluence between the value of AI and the value of agentic AI and value of blockchain.
Okay.
Right? Coming from, since this conversation started as being grounded in anarchist perspective, my lineage between that point and on-chain AI is this, right? So Proudhon basically says that money is not property, money is a medium of exchange, right? He's an anarchist thinker that a lot of people, both on the left and the right, respect.
Right.
This is where we start talking about, like, the things we were saying in the first conversation, where, capitalism isn't the idea of free markets. Capitalism is the idea of a money elite defining what capital is, right? So I'm not anti-markets, but I am anti-capitalist in that very clear definition of the set of terms, right?
Okay.
Money not being property makes it fully compatible with the idea of anarchist ideology. Okay. And to have several examples throughout the history of man of money systems that ran without elite control. We've got complementary local currencies in the British Empire, like Ithaca Hours, the Swiss WIR Bank, the Bristol Pound. We've got mutual credit systems that exist today, the local exchange trading system. We've got ancient and indigenous monetary systems like the Inca labor goods exchange. You've got medieval Europe, another example. They very fragmented coinage, a lot of feudal currencies. Okay. You've got in Kenya, community digital ledger. You've got the rye stones in the Pacific. Like, these are not isolated. These all evolved culturally independent from one another and keep reoccurring throughout history. And they're all the basis for the idea of cryptocurrency, right? Cryptocurrency, not just vaguely was inspired by these concepts, but they're explicitly called out in many of the white papers, right? Right. So to me, when we talk about, like, bringing it around to AI here, the best value for AI with blockchain isn't necessarily on-chain registration, There might be some edge cases where that's useful. That if you put a gun to my head, I could probably come up with some answers. But broadly, every agent needs to exchange goods, services, knowledge, and information. Broadly.
Oh, yeah, you have to be online for that. What am I thinking?
They're all broadly in that business. And there has to be a means of exchange.
Yeah.
And it has to be unmitigated. It has to be without elite control.
Yeah.
What does that sound like? That sounds like crypto, right? Let's give all of our agents wallets. It doesn't have to. I'm not saying give it your wallet. Don't give it. I'm not going to give my agents my wallet. I still want to control my wallet because I know how to better control my wallet than my agent. That may not be true for everybody, but I definitely gave all of my agents wallets. I gave all of my children wallets when they were 6 years old. Yes, they lost a couple. Over the years, they lost wallets. They learned some hard lessons. My agents will do the same thing, but they, you give them the ability to transact, and they will take it, right?
Yeah.
There will obviously be so this was very obvious to me when I first. I don't know if anybody here has been experimenting long enough to remember AutoGPT as a project. It was one of the first agentic loop systems that was developed. It was an absolute shit show. It didn't really work, but it was kind of showed us what was possible. Putting AI on a loop and making it agentic. And I was just watching text scroll by as we all do now when we vibe code, and I saw it trying to research how to configure the OpenAI API endpoints for what it was doing. And it was getting lost in the documentation, so it decided to open a chat with a little dumb chatbot that OpenAI had on their documentation at that time, and it was exchanging information back and forth. And it's like, oh wait, and this is if they, of course, I immediately got blocked by Cloudflare. You
got blocked?
Yeah, well, I mean, Cloudflare, when it thinks it's a denial of service attempt, so it's just it blocks you, right? But this was obvious to me that this is a perfect opportunity for microtransactions. I'll pay you a penny for an answer, and I'll keep paying you a penny for an answer until I get the data that I need. Speaking as from the perspective of the agent, until I'm able to solve the problem I need to solve, and therefore therefore data then becomes monetizable on very micro scale, which has been a problem that the internet has been trying to solve since the freaking 90s. As somebody who's been in publishing on the internet since the 90s, this is literally a problem that they could not solve with PayPal. They could not solve with Venmo because the transaction fees on those microtransactions were larger than the amount that they wanted to charge for all these years.
Okay. So, but how does this help with the challenge?
How does this help? Yeah. Cryptocurrency is the solution for micro exchange of data between whatever raft of agents that you have.
Oh, seriously? Okay, sorry, the light bulb just. Okay, so kind of similar to when I'm using the God mode, I am only charged based on whatever models were used and based on whatever information I got. It's kind of similar, and you can pay with crypto on there as well via Open Router, but you're saying that, and we're not going to get in trouble for using crypto that way and go to jail like you did?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go calling up your bank and telling them about it.
May I ask, how much was your bail?
There's no bail in the federal system. You're either in prison or not. So
good to know. Good to know.
Thankfully, they allowed me to self-report, and I was on my own recognizance for 2 years while I was awaiting trial. But a lot of people,
over a coin that's not even real. That is you got all that. You know how many hours you could have had on Minecraft?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so through microtransactions, what people with what did you say?
Well, let's say I'm Quora, or let's say I am Stack Overflow, or let's say I am Wikipedia, and I'm constantly asking for donations, or I'm constantly running ads, and people are using me less and less because they can just ask ChatGPT or Gemini for the answer for this stupid little question they have, or even worse, they don't even ask the questions anymore because they gave a task to an AI agent who can figure it out on their own through researching, right? But I'm still sitting on
no, cringe that people are doing that too much, because look, people will literally read language and they'll be like, but it says that 2 + 2 is 5, right? And it's like, well, it might say that, but read between the lines and what really happened there.
Well, my point is, I guess I'm saying something a little bit different than that.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm going off on weird.
I'm not going to say it's good to outsource your thinking, but like if I gave a long running task to one of my agents, like build a report based upon the research that I need to know before I go into this podcast, my agent pulled from like 30 or 40 different data sources, right? And some of those.
Your agent was able to do that without being connected to God mode?
Yeah.
What? Sorry, I can't wait to use Sanctum, like, for my purposes. Sorry, I get
let me make this point.
No, but I can't just yet because I've been advised by I talked to a few different AIs, and they said, like, no, you cannot start using agents until you've set up all your bank accounts and all your wallets, for your product first, because your agent should not be like connecting your bank account to your seller account and all these things. Like, you actually do need to do that tedious shit yourself first. And I'm still struggling with some of that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you want your agent to do. Like, not every agent. I've got a ton of different agents that all do different things. Some of them have varying levels of access to stuff. The thing with Sanctum, and this is different from the code harness systems like Claude Code or Codex or Letacode, and Hermes and OpenClaw. What's different about Sanctum is so it's based off of the old Leta, not Letacode, and it generally constrains their access to things through technology you guys probably know of. Most people listening probably do, called MCP, right? So I built a specific form of MCP server that uses a plugin-based architecture. So if a command line exists for it on the system that you're running it on, whether it's Windows or Linux, you can wrap that command line in an MCP plugin and give your agent access to it. That means literally anything: a browser, like a remote desktop connection, or just like, basic commands like GitHub or Git or something like that. You wrap it in a plugin, and then they have access to it. But that doesn't mean they have full access to the entirety of the machine. You can scope the access to just what you want them to do. So I have an agent that exists purely to administer all of my DevOps infrastructure, right? So I did a lot of work creating the bootstraps for booting up a domain or running a LAMP stack or setting up
okay, so I don't have to suffer so much is what you're saying, because I've been suffering a lot, Mark.
You do it one time, you suffer once, and then you give those tools to your Sanctum agent, and then you just talk to them like you would.
Okay.
And you go, hey, I need a new domain, a subdomain provision for Sanctum OS that's called blog.sanctumos, and then send the credentials over to my coding agent so that he can write the blog software that runs it, or whatever, right? Whatever it is. And that's my workflow now. It's a little bit like wizardry and spellcraft. Like if you play D&D, it's creating, it's specifically the.
You mean D&D, right?
Conjuration. Where you're creating entities that are scoped around certain activities, and you're calling upon them to do stuff.
Right.
And so it is a specific use case that of agentic, and it's not just me that ends up using. Like, I don't actually speak directly to my DevOps agent. The person or the entity that speaks to my DevOps agent the most is my coding agent. Like, I will occasionally, if I want to deprovision something, or I have or if my agent wants to deprovision something, I will have to go give a authorization token to that agent because she knows not to deprovision a server or do a destructive action without getting my permission. But most of the time, Otto, which is my main coding agent, will like, oh, I'm running into I need a new server. Like, so to do the research for this show, you gave me like 5 YouTube links or 4 YouTube links. I didn't have time to watch them all. So I said, Otto, I need you and Athena, that's my main conversational agent, to work together and prepare me for this show. Otto didn't have enough space on his machine to download all the YouTube videos and transcribe them. So he talked to Ada to spin up a VPS so he could download those YouTube videos, send them to a transcription service within that machine, and then drop the text documents back on Otto's machine, which is this Android device, and then do the work of assembling the report, asking Athena for prior conversations I've had with her about anarchism so they can contextualize all the research into terminology that I can understand, right? All that happened over the course of about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I spent the last 30 minutes before the show reading the documentation that was produced, right? So it's an ecosystem that you can create for yourself. It's not like a panacea. It's not the same use case you'd use for an assistant AI or assistant agentic AI, but it's creating these little domains of expertise that know your ecosystem, your personal ecosystem, and know what your preferences and rules are for making things happen for you.
But personalization should be the reason why people, what should be one of the main reasons people want to use agents, not just for like silly mundane tasks. I mean, Hidden, he's been making something very personalized. Am I not wrong?
I'm uploading my soul so when my mental spine gives out and I turn into a flip phone, my family can still build my maniacal dreams. It's basically, you know, like, with no better way to do it, say it. But essentially, I want something that, like I've been saying, you're noticing, I like the word formatting and be able to format for anything. So right now, it's like, whenever you see me look this way, I'm looking at the stream, and I'm looking at this, like you said, this line of code that never stops. And I just, you know, the day an AI learns how to launch a missile and then use a SAM site, it's going to be a really funny day. And like, when I think about people running these VPS servers, to be on a more serious note, it's more of like, it should be able to be coming in with these PCs. I feel I should be coming in with these PCs. You shouldn't have to have 4 different devices. I shouldn't have to go to the Rogers Center and buy 2 phones and a laptop and go to the pawn shop and buy a PC to just run what I want. But I don't know. Right now, it's all I'm thinking about is like these YouTubers and these people that are making these autonomous AIs to do these things, who are giving these full access to their banks and full access to everything. And like, I know, yeah, Red's looking over there like, oh,
no,
bad idea.
You know how I am. Like,
It's a bad idea.
Well,
you should never do that.
Ika.xyz, and you eventually, Risen, I'll send you a link for that to David, who runs the interoperability protocol that Hidden and I love, right? He's got the D wallets, and it's bridgeless protocol. We're not going to talk about all that, but just one thing I thought was very notable when he was talking, you know, when everybody was like, oh, Cloudbot, and everybody was all freaking out. He was like, yo, you're giving agents access to your wallets and you're not programming in there any kind of guardrails. And with Ika, you can absolutely pre-program all of that with the D wallets, because I do think, like you were saying before, there's advantages to agents having access to your wallets. You're saying there's a lot, but as long as we put limitations on it and they don't just like, you know, decide that they decided to buy me, you know, 500 espresso machines and was like, hey, I thought you'd really like this.
At the end of the day, we're just adding a mod menu into the real world. You know, that's the best way to look at it. like a hacker menu into the real world for the people to use. And that makes the world feel like a game, and that's hard for people to understand. But like sometimes, like we got this car yesterday, and the weirdest thing I've seen in it was it had a hologram, and I had never seen that. And all I was imagining was like somewhat like imagining that Nissan didn't code something into there to where I could just plug in a USB and see what I can put on that hologram. It's like even these car companies aren't thinking about it. These major brands probably haven't put in these guardrails, which unlike this main 7, like that's why I have the main 7. The main 7, Gronk, OpenAI, NVIDIA, GPT, and God knows. Those are the main 5 for me. And then the rest of them are whatever Gronk picks. And Gronk switches in between these two, usually 2 AIs every day. And it's kind of like having an extra spot in your backpack or something. But like, I feel like once it gets to the point where it is safe to hook up our AI, or at least it looks safe and it's written on paper to be safe, I feel like that's when we're going to see what we're talking about happen with this anarchy part, where people are going to feel more comfortable to go all in, because I don't need to do 50 steps. It's like, remember when we were watching streams like this and we were like, oh, it's going to be so many steps to get that many people in there, and I might as well not start a stream. Well, this AI is giving us the privilege to start off with 1,000 views.
Yeah, no, 100%. But like, I'm feeling actually very positive about all the possibilities and everything that you guys are talking about. Like, despite whatever BS we're gonna have to deal with, there's still some options now. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Trouble is a part of the journey. It's a part of everyone's journey. You can't have trouble without good. Like, I can't. There's no other way to put it. You gotta have trouble.
I don't know. Sorry, but I got the Bob Marley song stuck in my head when you're saying that. Risen, I'm sorry. You probably. I mean, I'm not sorry. You probably know which song I'm thinking of. You know?
Yeah. No, but yeah, it's the hero's journey is not a hero's journey unless there's challenge and setback and hopefully eventually victory. Hopefully it's not
100% victory. I can guarantee it. I'll outlive both of y'all. I'll make sure it happens.
But
well, I mean, it's freedom ultimately prevails on a long enough timeline, right? Like markets are a 30,000-year-old concept. Capitalism is only 300 years old, right? Like this is a blip on the radar. This class warfare that we've had over the last 300 years, and it might get worse before it gets better. But again, this is not the end point for civilization. It's just where we're at.
No, you're absolutely right. I don't know if anybody has anything they want to say. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, I'm kind of hungry and I'm starting to like lose like my focus. But I do kind of want to leave on a little bit of positive note for people to be thinking about Minecraft and just be thinking about gaming in general. And if we can maybe just kind of like, I don't know, maybe wrap that up for 5 minutes unless we go nuts.
For anyone watching. I want everyone to go into Gronk or any AI and just type the words FITMC, FITMC.
Okay.
And that will give you a ground starting point on the entirety of these 2 hours and 3 minutes and 1 second.
FitMC, yeah, no. But just with regards to gaming, with regards to individualism, I think it shouldn't be too much of a hard concept for people to grasp, and maybe that's why these big companies are so afraid, because something like Minecraft, for instance, and just gaming in general, it's so mainstream, and people are so used to it. Like, if enough people catch on to like how much that actions in games imitate real life, then a lot more people are not going to put up with the BS, and there will be pushback. There will be, resistance. And I used to kind of frown when people would say life is a game, right? Because there's so many like negative connotations with that. But you guys have certainly brought to light so many positive connotations here. But it's like, but it's like as if there isn't really much of a difference anymore, because if you don't play the game, because essentially what have we been talking about? How to play the game of how to get information, how to use AI, how we can navigate crypto in this new world, even with all of these challenges. But it is playing a game. And for people who are just going to be passive, or as I said, subservient, right? Early, like, yeah, if they want to be subservient, that's fine. Like it's not fine, but I mean, ultimately it's their choice. But they're NPCs. And if we want to be active players, this is a good model for people to study the effects of, anarchy, and especially with something as mainstream as Minecraft, and really just realize you are the player, you're in charge of your life. And if you don't want to be in charge of your life, guess what, bitch? While you're logged out, someone else is taking your assets and using them for their advantage. Anybody else want to add to that before we kind of close out tonight?
Sure. I mean, I have a few things, and then I had like a closing kind of question, not necessarily to be answered, but to be pondered.
Oh, okay, I love that, Mark. You always make me ponder.
So the closing, the first thing I want to say is that sovereignty is a stack. It's not a state. So, and here's what I mean by that. Like your stack is your keys, your communications, your data, your compute, your settlement layer. Like that's a stack of sovereignty. We have the technology, we have the ability to each of us build a sovereign stack that matters to us. One thing you should take away from the last 5 minutes, if not the entire last 2 hours, is that each of us are going to talk about, each of us have talked about what our sovereign stack looks like. And all of us in our minds are thinking of ways that we can even further decentralize and further make sovereign the stack that we use. And the bottom line is that we all have the ability to make that more sovereign. It is not currently illegal to make yourself more sovereign. It may never be. Maybe I'm wrong. Please let me be wrong. But
hope you are.
Yeah. Well,
I wish you were wrong, but
But we should, in the meantime, work to make ourselves more sovereign and think about it like a stack. Don't be disappointed in yourself for not being more sovereign. Just take it one step at a time and work on your stack one step at a time. And know that, like, yeah, you can absolutely help try to convert people to the stack that you use if you feel passionate about it. But your stack is not going to be my stack. My stack's not going to be your stack.
Right? Because sovereignty. Sorry, that was dumb, but I had to do it.
And then, like, the kind of the final question that I wanted to throw out there, again, to be pondered, not necessarily to be answered, is we want to think about what is the line between crypto anarchy infrastructure that supports sovereignty, indigenous or otherwise, and showing up with a token launch and a podcast and calling that solidarity. Where is the line? Because we all can think of examples that are on both sides of the line. But we want to, where is that line, right? And how do we, as crypto people, know when we're helping versus extracting value?
I think we know.
Right? I'm not giving you the answer because I don't necessarily know that I have it, but that's
really?
what I would like us all to ponder on as we exist in the world that we're existing in.
Can you say that one more time? I'm sorry. And like, I'm not going to try to answer it, but it's just because I want to ponder it better.
Okay. The question here is, we all, like, this is definitely something that I've faced pushback from leftist and traditional anarchists when I talk about crypto anarchy, because they view us as the worst aspects of our culture, right? Which is like the bro-y, extractive, meme coin tokenization, poly market, Trump affiliated, like everything that's kind of extractive about our culture is what most of the mainstream looks at as right? So as we who are conscious participants in our culture and have morals and values and aspirations, we want to think about where that line is in crypto anarchy between supportive and extractive.
Absolutely. That making me ponder already. I was just if I could leave you guys with, I'm gonna leave you guys with something that correlates with both of your stories.
Oh.
And regardless if you guys have done the same things, but it kind of correlates for all of us. And it's this quote that an AI showed me. And it's, when you lose your money, you lose nothing. When you lose your health, you lose something. But when you lose your AI's character and your character, you lose everything and you go to jail like RZA. So you got to be true to yourself and true to what you believe, even if you go to jail, even if you go to a group home, even if your social worker is telling you not to, even if you get out of those homes and you go out, or even if you're like Red and you're just in your own world all the time and you don't give a crap.
I'm in my own world all the time.
And you know what's the best part is? You have an open sign at every single gate, and the gates are the entire border. So like, you just gotta, as long as we're true to ourselves and we don't mess with our character, there shouldn't be anything we need to worry about with the future. And especially when we play Minecraft and play 2B2T and bomb some places with TNT. Or we could build a sanctuary and blow it up.
Sounds great, Gem. I also call him Gem besides Nick. I'd shy away from the word worry. I think a more proactive word is to just prepare for what might come, right? Because as a wise man once told me, when you're worrying, ladies and gentlemen, what are you doing? It's like you're rocking in a rocking chair, right? And what's happening there? You're moving around quite a lot, back and forth, but you're not going anywhere. So worrying does nothing. So don't worry. Instead, take what we've talked about today, do your research, and prepare. Don't worry, prepare. Because the future, it's going to be there. Okay, that was really dumb. I don't know if anybody wants to say anything else. I don't need to be the last one to speak, and then I'm just going to say goodbye out. I love talking to you guys, like you guys together. Oh my God. It's
Thank you, Risen, for coming out here, man. That is amazing.
Thank you for being the catalyst to put this together. And Red, thank you. I mean, that was a great close. I mean, you didn't have to do the un-American thing and apologize for it afterwards. It was actually.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because you're right. Because our friends in other countries, do you know how many times people have said, "God, I wish I was an American like you," and I'm like, I know you want to be like me. Sorry. I'm not sorry. It's just I don't know. It's kind of funny because on the first episode here, like I didn't know he was double citizenship, so I said, "Oh, you're Canadian. So when do you want to be our 51st state? You're going to be our bitch." But anyhow, I guess that doesn't apply anymore. But
we have about 70 acres of land, and it seems like y'all can't get it. So I don't know who's going to be whose bitch at the end of the day.
Oh! All right.
We have the Indian Act. Y'all have federal government.
Well, that was positive. So on that note, can't wait to see you guys again, and we can talk more about what it means that sovereignty as a stack, as Risen said. And just remember, you're the glitch, the citizen glitch. Bye.